We prepare our material before we start and build. This is where you run through the plank, through the planer to thickness, and then it's run over the saw to bring it down to the thickness of the strips. This material is run so the strip is on the edge grain. Here is where we shape the strip to pattern and then run it through the grooving machine, which puts a lap on it. This is boring the keelsons, and then the stems are pre-bent, and then you bring them down to size, cut off as much waste material as you can. You run this just about where you would start the bore for your ribs. Then you fasten the stem onto the mold. There's a bracket on the mold, and we use screw eyes to fasten them on. This shows you the fastening, and they're fastened on the mold with small cleats and screwed on. And you have to cut 5 or 6 ribs, go all the way around on the stem. After you get them notched out, you rasp them out with a round file. When you have that done, you bore the holes for the end ribs. These are short ribs which only go halfway. Now it's time to put the ribs on, and you put them on while they're steamed and hot. When you get the nails in, then you have to countersink them so that you don't hit them when you start dressing them off. And this is putting the full-length rib around, you nail it onto the keel, and fasten it on the side of the mold. As we use the steam pot, we put our stems in while we're either bending ribs or some other operation that you have to have steam, so that we don't have the steam pot on any more than possible, because you're using electricity all the time. This is the way you see a band on there, and we have a bar for leverage there to give us more pressure to bend it around. You get it bent around, then you put in a pin, and your stem is bent. Now we go back to the mold. It's all ribbed, and it's time to dress off any surplus wood that has to come off. Here we're dressing off the stem with a power planer, and which saves a lot of time and effort. When you have it down as far as you can with the electric planer, you finish off with the hand plane so that you get everything even, the ribs even with the stem. If you have any bumps on there, when you go to put your planking on, you're apt to break the planking. You go all along the canoe, and you dress off all the ribs even with the keelson. After you get that done, you fill all the the spaces that have been left with a bedding compound. This is just to fill in any spots where you have to make sure that the water isn't going to lay in there. And then put on, this is a cotton tape that we put on. That helps to make a waterproof joint. Here we're putting on a primer sealer before we start in plank. This is the first plank going on, and you put it on. It's a wide one on this canoe, which is about 3 inches wide. You nail it every so often so that it holds it down into place. And you put your 2 planks even so that when you plank it up, the strips are even all the way along. Put a couple of nails there to hold it until you take the draw knife and you take off all the surplus wood and down to, well, now the last little bit leave on and cut off with saw because you have to split it when you use a spoke or a draw knife. And you get down and then you mark all the ribs so that you know where you're going to bore your holes. This is putting the planks on, one on at a time, and make sure that it fits all the way along. We're putting it up tight, and we had to bore a hole in the one above, as well as putting this in because it had to come up real tight. Now then we're fastening the strip we had been putting the nails in all the way along. Put 3 strips on and then mark it to know where we're going to bore the hole so that you stay on the center of the rib. You get 5 strips on. I pull them up with a strap. You can see the hand bar there that goes against the planking and the strap that goes down to my foot. This is still putting the nails into the planking through the ribs. Do this so that on the diagonal so that you fasten all your ribs as you go along. When you get down to the bilge, you have to take some off on the inside of the plank so that it fits up tight on the outside. This is putting the last 4 strips on the side of the boat. Now I have to get them on. This is the end. Shows you how it planks up. And then shows you that there has to be a piece we call a turnip go on the end. This is just sawing them off. You saw them off a little long so that you can dress them off your plane and have it even when you go to put your outside stem on. This is fitting the turnip. They have to be fitted to the plank up above, because you can't pull this because of the width of it. When you get it fitted, you put the groove on it and splice the end of it. Now it's time to bore the holes for the nails, and you bore all the holes where the nails go. Otherwise, if you tried to drive them in, you'd split the plank and also the rib. And then you put the nails all in, and then you wet it to help hold the nails in, and also to soften up the outside of the plank. Get that done, you dress off your ends, and then you put on your outside stem. Put a band on that with holes in, and we can drive nails in to hold it in place until you get it where you want it. So this is putting it on. Put a clamp on the bottom. That holds it there until you get your screws all in. Now, after you get your screws in, and everything's ready to go, you cut along the top of the planking on the mold, and let your hull of the canoe come away from the mold. And you have to pull to loosen it off, and so this is what we're doing here. After you get it loosened off, you lift it up, and this is when it's loosened from the mold. After it comes off the mold, you have to bend all the nails over on the inside. We call this dubbing. You knock them all over, and this is the way we do it, with a steel weight that bends them all as you go down. This shows you the nails all bent over, and then you have to clinch it. Now, clinching is you hold a weight on the inside on the point of the nail, and you hit the head of the nail on the outside. And when you hit it on the outside, that drives it into the planking, because you have to sand it off, and it also puts the point of the nail into the rib. Now, we hit these nails 3 times, and that puts them into the distance we wanted and into the planking. And this is showing doing it on the outside. This is quite often done by 2 men. One man holds the weight and the other drives the nail from the outside, which is a lot faster because the man inside can see where he's going, where once in a while you have to stop and see that you're coming up on the nails all right. Now, you have to put 2 end ribs in the end, because you can't get these ribs in on the mold. After that, you put a pattern on to get the shape of where your gunwale is going to go. Now, the gunwales are bent beforehand on this press to give you your shape. You take off, you can see the bend up on the ends. You then clamp them on, and you use your good eyesight to get them nice and even so there isn't any bumps. Do one side, and then you level the other side to it. After that, you cut off the ribs along the top of the gunwale. You either do this with a handsaw, or in this case we have a setup with a saw that you can do it. And where the decks are going in, you have to cut the ribs off But you also should leave some long ribs so that you can nail it, and that holds the gunwale so that it won't lift and split the planking. Now we're ready to cut off the rib for the thwart block, and cut it off and then chisel it out. And then you cut your nails off and drive them out. After you get that done, you cut your ribs on a bevel. We use a jigsaw to do this. And so after you get them all cut off, you take the sander and go along and smooth everything off, and even with the planking on the inside at the top. Then you have to bore for the nails to go into the rib and into the gunwale. This is what is the final way of holding the gunwales onto the canoe. Now it's time to make the thwart blocks. And the thwart blocks are made on the sander, and we put just to make them so they don't look so plain, we take a little corner off on the inside. Then they're put in and nailed into place. And this is making the thwart, cutting it out to pattern. You have a pattern for all the different thwarts you put in the canoe. After you get it cut the shape and to the right length, you cut as much as possible off the one edge, top edge of the thwart, so that you get rid of a lot of excess wood, which you'll have. Then it has to be shaped with a spoke shave, and this is the operation of shaping it. You do one half of it, and after you get that down to shape, you turn it around and do the other side. And after you get it so everything is nice and even, you have to sand it. And so this is the sanding. You sand it nice and smooth. Now it's time to install the thwart, and so put 2 screws in the ends to hold it. Next comes the decks. The decks are pre-bent. You have to put a carling on the decks to hold them, the 2 halves together. And so there's 2 pieces put on here. And after they're put on, we use a pattern so that we keep our decks all approximately the same shape. Now this is cutting off the surplus wood on the deck, and you do that cut to length. Now we're ready to fit it into the canoe, and so you use your plane to fit it so it comes into shape. And then you have to mark where your long ribs are, because you have to notch out, as you see here. And then this is putting the mark around for the combing. You cut that out before you install your deck. This is installing the deck. So you put a screw there and another screw on the other end, and then even the screws so that they're all about the same distance apart. After that, you take the spoke shave and dress the deck down to the gunwale and bring everything so it's even. Now we're installing the seat risers to put the seats in. You measure the seat with a jig like this so that we get the correct length. After that, you cut them off and put them in. Then comes time for sanding the deck. You sand the deck down so everything is smooth and even. Then you steam the combing and you put it in while it's still hot and pliable. You get it in, then you put the screws in and fasten it in, round off the top, and sand it. You get that done, then it's time to put on the deck cap, which you see being installed. Now it comes time you put the keel on the outside, and when you get that on, and you put your bang iron on, and then you bring your outside stem down to the planking and screw the bang iron. And to round off the gunwales, you use a shaper and shape it down to the right. Then comes sanding, and you use a disc sander to level it off. You have to watch that you keep your sander even so you don't gouge. When you get that all sanded off, then take a vibrating sander and do the finishing. Now it's time to varnish. Everything has been completed as far as assembly, and so we varnish it. Give it a coat of sealer and 2 coats of varnish. After it's all varnished, we'll put the footboards in, pass them in with a little brass clip,